Before we start, I want you guys to guess how many hours it would take me to beat Techno's 500 million potato rank. I wrote this part of the script after doing all the calculations, and honestly, it was shocking. So comment down below. Technoblade is a Minecraft player with many feats, but most Hypixel Skyblock players would know him for his 500 million potato collection. He was the #1 potato farmer. He was sadly beaten eventually, but Techno's record still stands as an absolute feat of farming in Skyblock. So I asked the question, how long would it take me to beat his 500 million potato collection? This will be quite interesting, seeing as there's many modern day strategies and updates that could seriously impact the rate that you can farm potatoes. For this video, I am required to make a few assumptions. One of them is that you always have 661 farming fortune, because that's what I have, and it's ridiculously high, higher than most farming sweats. You would also need to have a lot of free time to do the same rates of farming per day. Your potato collection would also start at 10 million for the potato hose 8-digit bonus. And finally, I'll assume that you have a lot of money to spend on things like minions and your farming setup. A good portion of all these calculations from the video came from my farming files. There's a download link in the description for that. Also, while you're down there, feel free to subscribe because I do a lot of cool tests for the channel and I won't make you regret it. Anyways, with my 2 plugs out of the way, let's just get on to the video. The first factor that we'll be covering in getting a high collection is minions. Nowadays you can get 30 minion slots, as well as hyper catalyst and tier 12 potato minions. So assuming that we have the maximum possible boost for our potato minions, like a farming crystal, hyper catalyst, flycatcher, etc. So one tier 12 potato minion could produce 3,000 potatoes in an hour, and that's 72,000 potatoes in a day. But it's okay, we still have another 29 minions, so multiply that 3,000 by 30 and we get 90,000 potatoes per hour, or 2.1 million per day. To put that in perspective, they are so slow that I could farm their daily rate in just over an hour. But it's okay, because even though minions have evolved much less over time than farming, we still have manually farming potatoes, and those numbers are much bigger. Well, if I go have a look at my potato section in the farming files, download link in the description, I got 1,924,215 potatoes per hour. And for simplicity's sake and not having long calculations, I'm gonna round this down to 1.9 million. This is actually a pretty fair assumption to round it down, because over time you're gonna get gradually less focused on farming, which can equal less results. Because in all my farming files, I am generally a lot more focused and react quicker than in streams. But to get a rate of potatoes as high as this one, you need a pretty strong farming setup that can total out at 661 farming fortune. You would need farmhand 30, farming 59 or higher, a level 100 elephant pet, and a tier 3 potato hoe with 8 digits on the counter and collection. This doesn't sound too expensive already, it's under 50 million coins, so you can probably afford this if you grind. Well, the actual expensive part comes in the farming for dummies. I have 26 hoes with 5 farming for dummies on them. If you factor in what would already be on the potato hoe, this setup costs over 250 million coins. This is a humongous price jump from just one item. But good news, if you're mad enough to actually get this setup, you've just gotten 661 farming fortune, which is higher than most farming sweats nowadays. And yes, I do have this set up with all my farming for dummies, but luckily I bought them when they were cheaper, so I didn't spend over 200 million coins. Now you can skip this section if you want, because the next part is the final calculation, but I'm going to list a few minor improvements that can buff potatoes by a tiny bit per hour. One of them is using 2 flycatchers in your minions while you're actively farming. This is because you'll be there to collect them if they get full. Then you could only collect minions with super compactors and all that whenever you're about to beat the record, so you don't waste time collecting and can farm more potatoes. You could also play for more than 12 hours a day. Now, do not do this. Do not play like 24 hours a day constantly. The most I've ever done is 2 16-hour days, and they were a week apart. It is very unhealthy if you're doing like 16-hour days every day. Don't do it, but you can. This is one way you can get more. And the last, even more obscure one, is having 2 people in your house constantly switching out for farming. So you can technically farm 24 hours a day if 2 people have different sleep cycles. But I can't factor these into the final calculation, either because it's way too hard to account for, or nobody's gonna do this. So it's the time of the video you've all been waiting for, the final calculation of the video. How long would it take to beat Technoblade's potato record? So adding the 72,000 minion rate to the 1.9 million rate of manually farming, we get a final rate of 1,972,000 potatoes per hour. Subtract the 10 million from the 500 million because of your 8-digit collection. Then divide that number by 1,972,000 and we get 248 hours. Is how long you would need to farm to beat Techno's record. That's just under 11 real-life days and 1.5 weeks. So it's entirely possible for me to beat Techno's record, or anyone else that's dumb enough to actually go for it. And by any chance, if I ever get YouTube rank, I will legitimately try to beat this record. So how close were all your guesses? Well, that's all that I have time for today. And remember to make sure to subscribe and check out the farming files. And remember, farmers, keep farming.